All right, so we have described what we know from the course readings, which is good. That's a great place to start. And the next thing that we can think about is our own interests. I know it gives the catalogs and databases, specialized reference sources and research guides, but before that, I'm going to go to my own interests, and you can I think decide if you want to do a different order. I think that if you go into the library database and type in corporate social responsibility, you're going to find a lot of stuff and it's not going to be as successful. But if we think about our own interests, and I'm thinking about, I like education. So that's something that's really interesting to me. I also like cats, and I like reading. I'm trying to think. Other things that I'm really interested in are things like social justice. Those are things like related to like racism or things like trying to solve those issues in society connected to racism, homophobia, xenophobia, things like that, trying to resolve those issues. So these are a few things to start. Another thing I want to think about is, you can even just go and watch some stuff on YouTube. So here are some links from the week 6 and 7 slides that you can go and read or watch. Like, I gave you an example of Adam Ruins Everything. There's a recall formula from Fight Club. There's a Coca-Cola ad, which lets you see kind of a Coca-Cola ad that's similar to what Horowitz described in his article. So you can look for different places where you think it's interesting, that are going to be interesting topics to you. And I encourage you to do that. Think about what's interesting. So I am going to think about, like, okay, these are the topics that I like. I don't know. I'm not so interested in doing social justice doing reading. I am interested in doing social justice, but let me go ahead and I'm gonna just kind of strike that one out. I'm sure that there are topics. It's not something that I'm as passionate about. I'm sure that there's something with cats that I could do. I'm just gonna cross that one out, like, because it's probably, I'm sure there's something I could think of. There's something you could come up with, but I'm not thinking as much. Like, for example, I'm sure that there's a way that, if you were to, let's even Google or go to the library website and see if through one search we can find like cats CSR or I'm going to type in corporate social responsibility. I'm not sure if anything will come back, but let's see. Well, not so far. I'm not finding anything. So that's fine. Like, I mean, I could, you know what? And even if that's not working, like, try even Googling it, because sometimes if the databases won't help you, you can find a topic on Google that will help you with find the articles that you need to in the databases. So, okay, so we got what dogs can teach us about corporate social responsibility, world's best cat litter, corporate social responsibility. So I'm pretty sure that there's something that we could find out. So, we got Purina Get Socially Responsible with Shelter Pets. We could even look at that. So the idea of, different pet food companies or something like that helping out maybe disadvantaged animals. And that even makes me think, like, as I'm like even just thinking about this, like we could like, I could start out with this and maybe, try and find some ideas later. But here's a link where, they get, so the idea of pet food companies help shelter pets. I might look up like cat breeding. So there's a lot of problems. There's so many animals that need homes that maybe, you know, it could be a problem where cats are breeding and they have to euthanize or kill some cats because there's not enough homes for them. So leads to cats dying because not enough homes. That might not be so corporate related. Like that's usually, I think, a little less, more of like a like personal or small business. It's not so much corporate, but you know, I could maybe look at and see like, you know, see if like major pet stores like Petco or PetSmart see what their major pet stores CSR, because I think, you know, you might find problems with how they're operating. You might find that they're operating really well. So I think, you know, there's different possibilities there. So I think that's one way that you can look at that idea. So I just found that from typing corporate social responsibility in cats. So that led me to some other ideas. How about education and corporate social responsibility? Even before I Google anything, I'm just thinking about the idea of there's a lot of for-profit colleges which they're not like a government or like educational agency. They're like a company that that teach people, and there's been a lot of problems where they take people's money, they give them the classes, and then they end up with really terrible degrees. So I think that I already know about this from just my daily life. There's all these problems with for-profit colleges, student loans. There's problems with that where students get private loans and then they have a hard time paying them back. And, you know, that extends to how colleges and universities function. So it might be difficult to keep it isolated to that because colleges and universities make attendance so expensive so that people have to take out these giant student loans. But from private banks. So there's these kinds of topics. I know that already, but let me try Googling education, corporate social responsibility. And I'm putting quotes around corporate social responsibility because then that puts that in one phrase. Otherwise, it may like pick up different words. It may be a way that, you know, it'll say like, oh, you want to know about corporate education. And it would be, it's like, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking specifically for a whole phrase, corporate social responsibility. So we've got a few different things where we've got corporate social responsibility from these different groups. And I think some of these are more the idea of like, just looking at this article, and it looks like it's a longer article, and I might be able to read the full text. And this is CSR in Malaysian public universities, so that's a nice idea, but I'm going to just actually go ahead and step away from that. So I'm just checking to see what kinds of topics I can find. I'm going to do education, corporate social responsibility. Let me look at the scholarly articles for corporate social responsibility. Let me see. Transatlantic comparison. I'm not so interested in that just because that might be, you know, we're more focused on American companies, which you can do other ones, but I'm just going to be focusing on that for now. So corporate social responsibility and higher education. So UK universities. Okay, so I'm not finding much, and I think I probably could find more, but I want to make sure, give you a chance to kind of see like a little more about what this process is like. I've already got those couple of topics, so like the for-profit colleges, student loans from private banks, where there are these like kind of problems where people aren't aren't having a lot of success. Another thing I might want to look at is coding boot camps. Let's see, like those have become really popular in the last few years, where it's a business that teaches people how to code. It's a really intense few weeks of coding and then releases them to find jobs. So it might be that that's a really effective way. It's kind of a new form of education, and it could kind of demonstrate how, you know, maybe they're doing good things, maybe they're not, but like that's something I could do, like look at that coding boot camp industry. That could be something that, you know, I could look at. Or maybe even, you know, I'm an ESL teacher now that I'm thinking about it, you know, like private English schools. I've taught at private English schools like Kaplan, Embassy English. So these are places I've taught. So it's something I know about, and I can, you know, maybe write a little bit about them and see, you know, kind of investigate and question, or you know, maybe confirm the ethics of these places. So I'll go ahead and I've got those topics, and then social justice. So this is the idea of, so we want to think about companies interacting with these topics of social justice and kind of seeing, I think when I think about, you know, social justice and corporate social responsibility, I'm going to even just Google that right now. The idea that a lot of times companies will show their support, which it can be this tricky situation because it can be nice if companies show their support for a group of people that maybe have, you know, Black people or gay people in the United States who have often had, you know, a difficult time. It can be really empowering to have their support. But at the same time, if that's kind of what's cool and hip, that can be problematic because it looks like they're just taking on that image to support their own brand and make money. So I think that there's a lot of ways that can happen. And I just tried to type in, you know, corporate social responsibility, social justice, and I'm gonna try to like actually put quotes around social justice and see if that helps. I'm not sure if it will. So we've got this article here. Should corporate social responsibility programs embrace social justice? So Nike, Ben & Jerry's, and Levi's are all profitable companies. They are also well-known brands, but they share another trait. Recently, each has taken a stand on a polarizing political issue. Ben & Jerry's declared its support for Black Lives Matter movement. Levi's pledged its support for gun control efforts. And in one of the most polarizing moves at all, Nike recruited quarterback Colin Kaepernick to star in its most recent ad campaign. So we've got this, we've got these, you know, this idea of, you know, companies getting involved in politics. So right off the bat, should a corporation take a stand? Even though the number of politically active corporations is increasing, companies should be aware of the costs and benefits. Some argue that corporate social responsibility initiatives distract companies from their primary mission, making money. Indeed, some studies have found that social responsibility initiatives can hurt a company's bottom line. Companies that speak out about divisive issues risk losing customers. However, there is an upside to corporate social justice. Other studies have found that companies can do good and do well at the same time. You know, Nike is just one example. Though some people protested, grumbled, and threatened to boycott the shoe company after its Kaepernick ad aired, the threats made no difference. The most recent reports indicate that Nike's profits have soared over 30% since the backlash began. So, losing customers is not inevitable. So that's kind of neat. And also what's nice is that we get these links so that what we can do is we can open that in a new tab and see like, oh, here's, you know what? This is an article from Science Daily. That's seems like it's probably a pretty good source. So we can have we can use this probably as, you know, a really good credible source. And we might even be able to see if it's in the, you know, library database. If we look up the, article title, I'm going to just enter this and see what happens if we can find it. Maybe not, but we'll see. Oh, darn it. We're not finding it. Oh well. that's fine. But, you know, that can still be one of our sources that we use like outside. So here we've got this great idea. This is a blog. So I would have to see like, oh, who is this person? Etta Jones blog. I'm not sure what that is. So, yeah, I guess I'd have to look up a little more. I can't find the information exactly. Oh, Deetta Jones is an invited speaker. Equity, justice, and diversity, more years in experience. I don't know. So that would be someone that I want to maybe learn a little bit more about. Let's see if we can find her. I mean, she says she's an expert, but it's hard to know if that's true. And what her, like, you know, because her publications are hot yoga, coconut water, and stress. I'm not sure. So it's kind of hard to tell, like, you know, because some people put these fancy titles, like say that, oh, I'm an expert, but you know, just because they say that doesn't mean they are. So what we've got here is, you know, something that's a really good place to start. And I think that what you can do is you can click on some of these links and you can take some of these ideas as a starting point and find some more ideas. So I've got this. So we've got this idea, which is kind of similar to like what we were seeing from Horowitz about the idea of you know, where companies were doing good and they were profiting from it. So companies can do good things and profit, or can support political causes and profit. And I'm even thinking, like, you know, I don't know if you've heard of this Spice Company impeachment ad. So there's a Spice Company that, like, here, a Spice Company spent $92,000 on pro impeachment ads in a week. So here is something like, you know, it's this company that is letting, like, they're famous right now for being this person, the entity that spent the second most amount of money on spices. And the leading group that spent money is President Trump himself, and he's giving the opposite side. So it's kind of interesting to think about this idea. And so yeah, you can see that was eclipsed by Mr. Trump in his campaign, which spent more than 700,000. So I guess we can look at I don't know if the idea, if we'll be able to find out how much they so here we say, the politics haven't hurt Mr. Penty's business, he said, adding that he lost some customers, but gained some too. So, you know, it sounds like they've done pretty well. So it's just this little spice company and they're getting famous. I know their name really well now because of this. So you can see that the journey of like going through your ideas and can be this long process. And what that means is that you want to find what you think is going to work well, take some searches, take some time to think about what's going to be interesting for you. And there might be some trial and error. There might be some times you get it right, or you go search and you have to leave an article. It's going to be this long, continuous process, but I wish you the best of luck.